Hello and welcome to Can We Have Your Attention, the podcast about the attention economy with myself, James Wickham, and with Claire Coady. Hello, Claire.
Hello, James.
Hello, and let's start, Claire, by talking about the fact that we weren't here last week.
Yeah, I mean, physically, we were present on planet Earth, but...
Barely. Mentally, barely, in my case.
Well, yes.
It's been a busy month.
This might come as a shock to our listeners, but this is not our full-time job.
No. I mean, many people who listen probably have realised that this is not our full-time job, but still. Yeah, we are shifting to a fortnightly schedule for a whole host of reasons. The main one of which, frankly, is that this does take time and we want it to be good.
Yeah, and sustainable.
Yeah. And I want to do different formats with it and all sorts of... I've got ideas. I know that's a surprise to a lot of people. I do have ideas. So we're going to go fortnightly. Hopefully that means you get a chance to listen to it as well. You don't feel rushed week to week. It definitely gives us time to work on different things. And this episode is kind of a bit of an introduction to why we're going fortnightly and is also mostly about the creator economy. And this is not going to be a moan, Claire. We are not going to sit here.
We have solemnly promised that this will not be a moan. It's just,
happen.
There's definitely an economics thing. And this also won't be the only time we touch on this. So we've also, James, you and I have been talking a lot about talking to different creators. We've actually had some really interesting feedback to a survey I put out to some creators, and we're going to get a creator on to talk about the economics of that fully. But I think we're just going to introduce the topic from the perspective of doing this podcast as people who've worked in these industries for a long time and are now setting up something on their own and running it on their own steam.
Let's start very basically with where we found some of the issues maybe with setting this all up. Yeah. And we should probably start with where we came from in this, because we're not absolute newbies, are we?
We're not.
So
we're not.
Really, we should have had a bit of a head start in this whole kind of, we want to do a podcast.
And we have. This is a very, very, very shiny, spangly, high quality production. You would never be able to tell.
I've so often been called shiny and spangly.
You're spangly, James. You're spangly.
Very spangly.
But like, I'm objectively going to say, I mean, I know it's evaluating your own product, but this is a really good quality podcast, right? You are an exceptional audio editor. You're a very good video. I mean, for someone who has never done video editing, you've done a remarkable job with it. Like and actually by any standard, you've done a remarkable job with it in the early days. More on that later. But that didn't come from nowhere, right? Like we've both worked in creative fields for 23 years.
You're absolutely right. And one of the issues that kind of came out to me very quickly, and you talked about video there, was just simply how long it takes to do video. So we started off doing video episodes. So
because we were told all podcasts, video podcasts, that's the way forward. That's how you do it. Forward.
And to a certain extent, it kind of is, right? Like, let's be honest, we've had to make a decision here for our own sanity as much as anything else. That video podcasting for us at this stage is not working. Certainly not in the way of doing a full episode edit, which is what I did for the first 4 or 5 episodes of this.
Yeah.
And then essentially I came to the conclusion, I just couldn't do it because it just took too long. And of course, for the amount of time that it takes, it is crazy. So our recordings are about an hour long usually, aren't they? Okay. And I edit that down to about 30 minutes. That takes me maybe a couple of hours, 3 hours, something like that. To do that on video would take about 2 days.
Yeah.
And, we've done conversations, certainly the first few. I managed to get it down to about a day to do a video edit of about 25 minutes or so. And that involved a lot of what I would describe as heavy chopping.
Yeah.
Well, with video, what you have to do is you actually have to cut constantly between different shots. So when you watch our initial videos, you'll see, especially in like the last couple that I did, you'll see they cut repeatedly every couple of seconds, because I was told by a very good friend of mine who is good at video editing and actually has a video editor that they cut repeatedly because that's the length of time that you have your attention span for. And if you watch normal television, you'll see a shot change every couple of seconds to keep your attention.
My favorite thing to look at is Bake Off, right? Like the Great British Bake Off. I don't know how many cameras they have exactly, but if you told me they had 12 in that tent at any given moment, I'd believe you. That must produce days of footage for every episode they have. And it's a feat. Like working on a multi-camera show is a feat. And actually a lot of podcasts now are set up in studios like that, right? And that's where the additional time comes in, editing, is because you're not just looking at one feed and cutting between it. You're actually looking at multiple feeds and trying to make them work together. It's a challenge. It's a real visual challenge as well.
So many of the issues that we face during this is, again, let's just reiterate, we're not moaning.
It's not a moan. No.
We're genuinely trying to explain the process of it. So many of the issues I think we face are just time related. And for creators at the moment, I get the sense that actually the issues are so much of it are time related.
It is time related, yeah. I mean, at least one has told me that. So they've been doing podcasts for a number of years now, right? And they were saying that the switch to video in the last 2 years has added an incredible amount of workload. And now they've been able to get more staff on, or to delegate more things to more staff in order to get that done. But that comes at a cost too for them, right? So the economics of that is tricky. But yeah, adding video has, I think a number of podcast creators would probably agree, has been something that's effectively doubled or even tripled their workload in some cases. Often maybe to their benefit, because so many platforms now are encouraging you to add video to your feed. So Spotify is, as soon as I started looking at the back end on Spotify on this podcast going out, it encourages you to add the entire episode in video onto it, which as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, I can see why the rest is history does. But I can see why they've done it, because they've gone, right, this is just what the algorithm needs to live, to thrive. And that's what we're doing. And that's basically on every platform. That's the same thing.
Yeah. And this is a big discussion that's being had amongst podcast creators at the moment. That has been to the detriment of audio.
Oh, right?
Because so many people now don't realize that when you are talking about something, like you could be talking about something happening in the studio, you have to explain that for an audio listener. And a lot of that has been forgotten in the transition to video. The audio listener can be sitting there, they might have subscribed to the podcast for months on end, and yet suddenly they don't understand what's happening because it's all gone to video.
Yeah. And as a creator, it's easy to forget that, right? I worked in advertising for many years. Video is obviously the preferred format, but radio ads, are incredible skill. But so much of it has to be delivered through voice. And that includes descriptions and sounds and everything else. And when you're looking at yourself, or I'm looking at you, James, as we are recording this with video, right? I'm suddenly aware of how many of the things that I do are communicating visually, right? Like I make faces all the time, or I use my hands, or go, and like you can't see what my hands are doing when it's an audio version. It doesn't make any sense, but it's easily forgotten, even if you've been doing audio for a really long time, but especially if your background isn't being a radio presenter, right? Like if you're a historian, or if you're whatever the hell I am. Sorry.
What are you?
What am I?
Really?
I'm a strategist by trade, apparently.
Okay,
no, not apparently. I actually am a strategist. If that's not your background, you're there as an expert. It's easy, even a journalist, I guess. If you're a print journalist, for example, it's easy to forget that audio is its own medium.
You may not be aware of this, because I don't think I've ever told you, but I do have the option of doing an AI-led edit of this program every time. So I can just literally click a button and it will make an AI edit in video, because we use a system called Riverside to record this, which will just literally deliver me an episode and then upload it directly to YouTube. I can do that, and it takes no effort. Now, the reason I haven't done it is because but I think there is something about the human edit. Like, I like to pick out the bits that I think are important. And yes, that involves my own kind of sense of, okay, this is important, but I've got training to do that. And I don't think the AI has particularly.
You've mentioned this before, and I think particularly for the shorts, the AI edits of the shorts. And actually, once when I left the studio, it gave me an option to have a short, like almost immediately.
Yeah, we should say by a short, you just mean a short video, like literally
a short segment of it. Yeah. Like 90 seconds.
So I can do an AI edit of a full episode. I can do an AI edit of a segment, so say 5 minutes. I can do an AI edit of a reel, or an AI edit of a hook, which is like 20 seconds. So I can mix and match, and I do use them. So
Yeah,
like
me
with
too.
the hooks and the reels in particular, what I will tend to do is take, like a 40, 50-second clip, but then I will go back and edit that myself within that clip. So it highlights a bit that I think is interesting. I'll go, I'll grab that bit, but then I'll go and edit it myself.
Okay, so what I'm talking about as well is the ones where we've left it to the AI's judgment, right? So there's two. So one is actually, it must be a hook, I guess. It was a 12-second video
Yeah, that'd be
of
a
me.
hook.
It was a hook of me saying Mean Girls. I will go to my grave defending Mean Girls as the best depiction of power dynamics our society has. That actually did really well on social media. It is nothing to do with the rest of the show, right? Like, it just went, Mean Girls, and she's gone on a bit of a rant there. We're going to pull that one out. And it did something similar the other week when I went on a rant about Elon Musk. So that was the one that it gave me proactively. And it was totally out of context, saying that Elon Musk is running X as a vanity project. Now he is. I don't disagree with that sentiment. But you would have an entirely different understanding of what that episode was meant to be if you just saw that in situ.
Yeah, I think one of the things that certainly I was told this in the BBC, and I think it's certainly proved true to me, is that there is also no cross pollination from one format to the other. I've got no sense. And, hey, listeners, we have an email address. Can we have your attention at protonmail.com?
So at the moment, the email that we get to that is exclusively people with Gmail addresses, usually, offering to boost our YouTube views. And there's been at least 4 different or 5 different people who've done that. I think they're running AI agents to find our channel and then, mark it. They're all based in Pakistan. I don't know why Pakistan's the home of this. It was ever thus, though, I should say. We used to call them like view farms or something. That's obviously what it is. It's bots watching the videos to artificially boost the traffic. People sell it for like 1 cent a view or something, or 1 cent for every 100 views. But anyway, so I'm excited that our videos are now good enough. We seem to be doing something that's signaling that we're trying to get attention enough for bot farms to approach us proactively to boost our views. Obviously, I've not taken them up on that offer, but they are persistent.
Now, these bot farms obviously there to try and get loads of views on stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it strikes me that we did have one occasion where, for some reason, and we were doing, like, those shorts were doing quite well, and then for one reason, one of them just did not travel at all, by which I mean 0 views. And then I think we both had a moment of, is this being throttled by the algorithm?
Yeah, and I never really fully got to the bottom of it. So there's 2 things going on. So one was because it was so substantially lower compared to our previous shorts that I thought, this is unusual. I should also say this is before the change to the shorts algorithm and the way that YouTube presents shorts to users came into effect. So that has also had another effect, but it just didn't go anywhere. So we were looking at it going, actually, is this throttling this? Because we were talking about algorithms trying to gain attention. And we were also talking about fraudulent uses of algorithmic, engineering, right? And I still believe that there's some throttling going on there. But one of the other things I saw was that, it does say in the background, well, if it falls beneath a certain percentage view through, then they're going to punish the subsequent videos. Now, a really funny sort of fact of anything that starts growing is that your actual percentage view through might get lower, right? This also applies to click-through rates. So say you have 100 people that you've sent something to. If 5 people click on it, that's a 5% click-through rate, right? Now, if you send it to 10,000 people, but 200 people click on that, your click-through rate is lower. But more people clicked on it. And this is where, more is more, right? More is good, more is more. However, your click-through rate's gone down. So if you're just looking at the rate on its own, that looks bad. Now, what happens is the bigger stuff gets, the more even that rate looks. So it might look lower than things, but it's pretty stable because you have a bigger pool. Whereas you'll have bigger swings for stuff that reaches a lower number of people because 5% is substantially less than, say, 10%, right? But that's still fewer people than the 200 you had clicking through. But YouTube's algorithm was looking only at the rate of view through. It wasn't looking at the number of people who did or the total number of seconds. It was looking purely at the rate, and then the algorithm was then making decisions on the basis of the rate. So as we got more viewers on the shorts, our rate of view through naturally went down a little bit. It actually wasn't that much. but it was because more people were viewing it. And as a result, everything else got throttled. And then the more it got throttled, the less we showed up.
We should point out as well that the one that got throttled was one that mentioned YouTube itself.
It is,
if you remember.
It was one that mentioned YouTube itself, yeah.
I hate to put on my metal hat, but
yeah.
there is a conspiracy theory here. It doesn't like being mentioning itself, which is interesting.
It is interesting, yeah.
I think the thing that's fascinating to me is that you have no concept of these things when you're just starting off your podcast, you're starting whatever, and you are at such a whim of the algorithm.
Yeah,
that's it. Really.
Even when I was working heavily, like on the coalface of social media promotion, right? Like 15 years ago now, we're looking. The algorithm as such didn't exist, right? Like for Facebook at the time, it was EdgeRank. That was the closest thing we had to an algorithm. It was actually kind of interesting from a user point of view because you determined what you saw to a degree, right? Like you could do things by popularity, you could do things by subject matter, but you had much more control over what was presented to you. Whereas now the promise of these algorithms is that they know what you want, right? But that's how we've gotten into the circle of being served the same things over and over and over. And actually, it's kind of boring. That's, I think, some of the effect that we're seeing in people saying they're trying to taper off social media. They don't like it as much. I think they're actually bored, and they're bored because they're not exposed to new things. There's no serendipity. There's no joy anymore in it. But anyway, you're at the whims of the algorithm, and it changes all the time. And even Meta and Alphabet, or Google, Facebook, Instagram, they don't actually know what's in those algorithms. They don't know how they work. They're just the advice from Meta when we set up our Instagram channel was experiment. And I went to talk to a friend who's in charge of a tens of millions of dollars marketing budget with Meta and said, "What advice do they give you?" And she said, "Experiment."
Yeah.
It just was like, we have nothing. The advice is the same. I think if they really wanted to help, if they genuinely knew, they would have told her, right? They don't know.
I think also what's been fascinating to me is that I've spoken to friends who have very significant YouTube channels, social media followings, and so on.
Yeah.
Nobody really understands why they suddenly become popular.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different tale. It's a particular video hits something, it goes through the roof, other people join in, and then it's a gradual build. But to me, it's fascinating. There isn't, like with journalism, the BBC, you could say, okay, you work on these things and then you'll slowly work your way up and get to know journalism, and then you can go on to There's no sense of any sort of linear progression through how to become successful on a social media channel.
No, I mean, because the algorithm on Instagram in particular has changed recently, right? It's doing much more that TikTok thing where it's looking at subject matter rather than ads. Who are you following will serve you content for people you're following. It's actually just going through subject matter. I went back and started looking at the channels of influencers I've come across who seem to get really big. And you can see it came from nowhere, right? They did one random thing and that random thing seemed to juice something. And they went, oh, okay, right. We'll do more of that. I remember there was one, she makes these like slideshows of what would Henry VIII's favorite vapes be? Like, and then he did his wives, and then like meal deals for that. But you can see there was a point like 2 months ago where she did one of these and it just went crazy. And she's like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to do a whole bunch more." And her content before then was totally different, completely different. She just did this one whinny, would Henry VIII like a cherry vape?
So we'd just like to welcome you to the Mean Girls channel. By some stretch, that is the most popular thing we've done so far. And we're going to ignore the attention economy from now on.
We're going to explain it entirely in Mean Girls memes. Let's go through a list of things that each of us have bought to make this podcast happen or have invested in to make that happen. Like, let's look at that first. So you start, because you've got the big one, right?
I bought Riverside. So this is the recording software that we use to record so that we can both talk to each other in video. It does a load of other stuff. Now, it has saved me some money because I was going to do hosting with a company called Transistor, because audio hosting in itself is a bit of an issue. You can either have a channel on its own, you pay for that channel, and then you can have maybe as many listens to it as you like. But there are other services like Transistor where what they will do is they will say you can have as many podcasts as you like, but a maximum of 20,000 listens, which I think probably for where I am with my business probably would work better. We were going to go with them. In fact, the first few episodes we hosted with them, and then we went to Riverside because they started offering their own hosting as part of the Pro subscription I've had to buy, which is around about 250 quid a year, I think.
Yeah.
To get this software.
And how much was Transistor?
That was 130 off the top of my head
per year.
So, yeah,
more.
So it's more. I think it's probably more than that. So the point is, it made sense. Well, I've only got this one podcast that I host or need to host. I might as well just use Riverside. But then you miss out because of that on as many good analytics because Transistor's better at those.
And the website as well. So Transistor, in addition to the hosting, the offering included analytics and as part of the package and included website hosting. So separate to domain name. So James, you've been paying for Riverside. Separately, I've paid for the domain name, the website hosting now, and Linktree, because once you're on social media and we also have our own businesses and stuff, we need to link it together. Linktree, actually having a pro Linktree subscription actually did pay off in the end. So there's that. But it was really funny because the Transistor website, it was actually really helpful, right? I just plugged in the domain name. It sort of took care of itself, but it was able to link the podcast to a web presence. And for reasons, I'm not an SEO expert, and I'm certainly not an SEO and podcasting expert at all. But for some reason, it basically helps service and search better on podcast channels. However, podcast websites are interesting propositions to me because what they're really doing is pulling from the RSS feed and doing that automatically and having it look nice, but also it takes a lot of effort off of that, right? So I separately for my company, the Attention Practice, I have a website that I run through Squarespace. I could start putting the podcast in through there as well. It wouldn't be a very good website to host it, but having a podcast specific website run by a company that understands and is devoted specifically just to pulling in the podcast feed, making it look pretty, is well worth the effort. However, I went through a specific podcasting website company, and it's kind of a con.
Right.
I think I paid £120 for the year for it, and it doesn't even give you analytics. It does have a audio player on it, which is good, which is kind of your basic, like, this is what you want from a podcasting website. We can't have host pages, so we can't have pages about us. We can't have a blog on it. We can't have a page about, like, oh, here's this guest we have on. So we have to do that separately. We've been doing it through LinkedIn. I need to get much, much better about doing Substack posts for each of the episodes that we're doing because I'm not doing that, and that's silly. But part of the reason I'm not doing that is because, like, if I devote, say, a day and a half of time to getting this stuff going, and before Christmas, let's say, like, all that was sucked up by actually just making different size formats of assets to promote the podcast on Canva, which I have a pro subscription for.
And again, all of this really comes back to time because we haven't spoken yet about things like trying to book guests and all of that. We'll come on to that. But a lot of people have talked in the past about the idea that podcasts and so on have brought a democratization of media that's, never been seen before. To a certain extent, that's true, but the cash barriers to entry are still quite significant.
Yeah, substantially higher, I'd argue.
And then, of course, the next bit is once you've even got all that stuff and we've got it all set up and it's all there, there's no guarantee at all that anyone's actually going to listen.
Yeah. I mean, we have been lucky because we do have a pretty stable audience. It's not like super, super high, but, looking at the numbers, we do have people who's come back, which is quite nice, from all over the world, which is amazing.
And we're also very new.
We're also very
honest.
new. Yeah, and I haven't done the thing I'm supposed to do where, like, I go to Pocket Casts or I go to Apple and go, hey, hi, we're new and we're bootstrapping this and it's on something that's interesting to people, partially because I'm a perfectionist and I need to just get over that.
Well, and also we're working it out. Like, I don't think we're not making any sort of great suggestion that we are the absolutely perfect at what we're doing here.
No.
We very much started with an idea, didn't we, that this was going to be 12 episodes and done. And you might have noticed this is episode number 13 or whatever it is. We've got ideas for the next couple.
Yeah.
So when I started off, because I asked Claire to do the podcast because I thought it was really interesting, but I thought it was interesting for 10 episodes interesting. I didn't think it was interesting for an ongoing piece.
Yeah, because this is the stuff of life now, right? Like, this is
right.
Yeah.
And there's so many different avenues to go down. If you think about the things we've already covered in this podcast, yes, we've covered the basics of the attention economy, we've covered social media, but we've also done, like, prisons and
radicalization and stands.
And all sorts of stuff. And Mean Girls. So there are, I think, so many different areas that you go into. And of course, the other thing is that if you're doing this properly, part of what you should be doing when you're doing a podcast is having production meetings. And we haven't really done a lot of those because we haven't had time, have we?
We end up doing them on the podcast.
As you've noticed.
Yeah. Our production meetings are James and I send each other WhatsApp messages going, would this sound good?
It's really interesting, I think, from my perspective, just the kind of time investment needed to do this kind of stuff and then to try to get eyeballs on it. And you are entirely at the whim of that algorithm.
Like, people have come to me with lots of different things they want to hear about. And it's so radically different. Like, everyone is very affected by this, right? I'm totally surprised that no two people have told me that they want to hear the same thing. They're all like, yeah, this is completely relevant. And then they'll come to me with like wildly different ideas. So the ADHD one was, that's the one that's come out of multiple people. But the other things that have come out have been everything from like information crises on how, algorithms are shaped, on the problems that creators face, on elections and misinformation, on misinformation and corporate policy. What happens when rumors go wild? And how do you tell what's truthful or not anymore? What does trust and distrust look like?
And we should talk a little bit about guests, I think, because we've been very lucky so far to have some fantastic guests.
So lucky.
Booking does take time, and that's absolutely fine. Like, that's, again, not a complaint. I think also quite useful because some people in this field. That helps. And I'm quite used to booking people because I've done it for 20 years as a job. It's really interesting from my perspective that we have those guests who want to come on because people are interested in this subject. Long may it continue.
Long may it continue.
And just a reminder, if you have anybody that you think would be really fascinating and you want to talk to and get on the podcast, send us an email. We want to hear about it. So I suppose one of the questions you might think while you're listening to this is, right, what happens if for some reason you suddenly do become popular, people do want to listen to you, you become well known in the field, you get a massive sponsor who gives you loads of money.
And that can happen before you become popular, by the way. I think that's a chicken and egg thing.
By the way, we are open for sponsorship.
We are open for sponsorship.
I'm just trying to think of the companies I would like to sponsor me at this point. I will take Ben and Jerry's, maybe. I quite like them. What else?
Unilever money. You want your Unilever money.
I know, I don't want that bit. I just want ice cream. Can we be paid in ice cream? Is that possible?
I am agnostic about where this money comes from to a point.
Yes, so am I, to a point.
To a point.
I think that's a question. But if you got a load of money, and it wasn't just us being paid in ice cream, Claire, what would you spend it on?
The first thing we were obviously spending it on is Transistor or similar. The second is probably a video editor.
Audio editor. I mean, I quite enjoy audio editing, so there'd be bits of me doing it, but depending on how much money you got an audio editor, because then I can start looking more at the production side of it.
Yeah.
And again, all this does, it just brings us back to time, right? It's the time for us to do stuff.
And then a research assistant,
a
research assistant would be remarkable because we have ideas. We're obviously reading a lot, but there's other things that we can do. The big shows have like 4 research assistants on these things.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons I wanted to do this episode was because we've seen yet more cuts announced by the BBC in the last few days. We're definitely shifting much more to a freelancer economy, or an economy where your work and your life is much less regulated than it was before. You're much less a part of an organisation that has access to these things. So I think, hopefully for a few people at least, this may be useful in terms of the kind of setup costs and the setup issues that you face. And we should say, I think episodes of about 30 minutes are kind of where we aim, because hopefully they keep your attention for long enough that you want to keep listening to us.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening to us.
Thank you for listening to us. And if you are a creator or if you are working in media and advertising, we'd love to hear from you. Doing this show for James and me has been a really eye-opening experience, getting back into what the development process of creating something, a product like this looks like and how that functions. And we'd love to hear more of your experiences because, you know, we are one, we're just two people, but I think it has changed substantially, and hearing more about how that's affecting the day-to-day would be really, really, really good. And I think everyone would be interested in hearing it.
Claire, do you think that was a really self-indulgent podcast that we just did?
100%.
Completely self-indulgent. And we just sound like we've just completely turned up and just done that for a laugh rather than actually come up with any thoughts and ideas. I think it was fine, personally.
I do. I think it was fine. And why can't it be both, right?
Hey, we're allowed to be self-indulgent.
It's our podcast.
Yes.
It's bootstrapped.
What we like.
It can be what we like.